Thanks for staying with us here on Daybreak. It is 7:11. In its continued efforts to improve education, the Ministry of Education will not only be focusing on students, but on principals as well. Here to share more about a training program, we have the Honourable Tara Rivers. She's a Minister of Education, Employment and Gender Affairs, and Lynette Monteith. She's a principal of the John Gray High School. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
So the ministry is about to, started this program for training our principals, and it's modeled after a program out of Ontario. Why Ontario?
Well, Ontario is actually one of the few jurisdictions that actually accredit their principals and deputy principals, or vice principals as they call them. And after 2009, the PISA results, which is kind of an international benchmark for schools across the world, Ontario is really looked at as the model, or Canada, I should say, is looked at as the model because of the homogeneous nature of their population as opposed to the traditional places like Finland and Asian countries, which have more of a homogeneous feel. So it's about the school improvement efforts that they've made, and they've actually been pegged to go from great to excellent in the latest McKinsey report. So we thought, again, trying to build a world-class education system here in the Cayman Islands, it's good to model the training programs after countries that have actually succeeded in doing that. And
this program is one of those that really is comprehensive and touches sort of all areas that the educators have to work in. Tell us a bit about the program and some of the focus areas that these educators will be trained in.
Okay. Well, Marzita, the program, though, as the Minister said, is modeled off the Ontario model, but we contextualize it for the Cayman Islands. So obviously you take a model and you go through the various components to make it suitable for the Cayman Islands and what we need here. We will be looking at things like effective leadership, building effective leaders, because we know effective schools must have effective leaders. Leaders being visionaries, so building that vision for schools, the goals that are associated with building effective schools, looking at curriculum management, classroom management, building good relationships with all stakeholders, to name a few. So those are some of the critical areas. But I'd like to say here that we always speak to children about being lifelong learners. And in our everyday work, sometimes in the hustle and bustle, we get left out as well in terms of that lifelong learning. So certainly this program will be really beneficial to principals and deputies in continuing their learning and increasing their knowledge.
Well, we know that school improvement has certainly been a driving force for the ministry in terms of improving our education system. And for that reason, tell us if this program is mandatory or not for educators.
Well, this is part of the professional development policy or package that we have introduced this year for the first time, or at least for the first time in a very long time, focusing on leadership development at the leadership level of the schools. As Ms. Monteith said, that, you know, of course, any success or not of a school is largely dependent on the management and leadership at the school level, amongst other things. So we want to make sure that we poise our schools for greater success and greater improvement by giving the leadership and the management the tools to do their job effectively. And so it is a big part of the overall package and the vision as Minister of Education that I have and that the government has for trying to ensure that we do develop this world-class system of education where we look at what we're doing well and continue to do that, but where there are areas of weakness, we actually look to address that. And one of those areas was the lack of the professional development at the management level of the school. So we managed to introduce that this year. So I'm very excited that the principals have embraced it. And we look forward to offering it next year to emerging leaders, so people who aren't necessarily at the leadership level currently, but who have their sights. So it's about the succession planning that is necessary in order to ensure that our system stays or continues to be and grows in its competitiveness as we look to improve the education for our children for all.
Well, you've already begun the program, so it'll be interesting to see how things progress over this school year and going into the next cohort. For anyone who wants to find out more information or wants to be a part of this program or just do their homework before they perhaps get started next year, where can they do that?
Well, they can contact the ministry. Kiva Powell is the manager of professional development, so she'd be able to give more information about the program at the Ministry of Education. But of course, individual principals now have started the process, which they had the 2-day session or 2.5-day session took place last week. The first 2 modules of a 6-module certificate for this year, and then next year it continues for the 2nd certificate. But I'm sure the principals will be able to kind of weigh in on their experiences thus far.
Well, great. It's great to see that the ministry and our educators are leading by example, learning, growing for themselves, and hopefully those results prove positive in our children as well. Thanks very much for the program and for coming in today.
Thank you.
When Daybreak returns, it was a night of huge generosity. We're talking about the NCVO Telethon, and we'll tell you how you can honor your pledge. But straight out of the break, we will meet Michael Lockwood, our YCLE finalist. And remember, if you're leaving home, you can listen to us on ICCI FM. That's 101.1. We'll be right back.